Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I have my 5 takeaway series covering 5 Dynasty topics. As always, make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Let's go. So, the first one is that Bijan Robinson really improved in year 2 and could rise even further in year 3. So, I do want to try to discuss players on the channel that I haven't mentioned much. And Bijan Robinson is not mentioned on here because he's a high value running back who I have as my Dynasty running back 1. But running backs in that value range are never buys to me. So he's not really a buy, but he's an elite player. He deserves some video time. So let's get into it. Last year in 17 games, 304 carries, 1,456 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4.8 yards a carry, and 61 catches, 431 yards, and touchdown. He was flat out amazing. He averaged 85.6 rushing yards a game, was excellent as a goal line running back, maintained his passing game work from 2023, and became even more efficient. He averaged 2.4 yards after contact per attempt in 2024, 11th among running backs. Now, in 2023, he was just okay in this metric, but last year he was one of just 3 running backs with over 300 carries to get over that 2.4 mark. He is an efficient workhorse with passing game work. Those don't come along often, and he's only 23 years old. So, all of this said, Bijan Robinson was great for fantasy, great for real life, but I'd consider selling him if you can get a haul. Now, again, I don't like to pick sells like this for my sell videos. Robinson is an elite running back. He's my Dynasty RB1. He's my redraft RB1. The only reason he's a sell is because he's a high value running back, and there are often people who overpay for these players. He's certainly not a buy. I'm never buying this type of running back at the high cost already. But yes, I mean, if you can get Brian Thomas Jr. plus for Bijan Robinson, which I've seen, Puka Nacua plus for Bijan Robinson, I've seen, or, you know, a high-end quarterback in Superflex, maybe with a plus for Bijan Robinson, I would do those things. I would. And that's why, you know, I have this. It's kind of what I would take away from this. But I don't want to take anything away from Robinson as a talent. He's elite. And I expect a great year in 2025. Now, speaking of another player that, again, has not been discussed like at all, T. Higgins. So the last time I discussed Higgins was when he signed his contract extension. And we do have a little bit more information since then, which, again, has not been discussed. It was 4 years, $115 million, $40.9 million guaranteed. Unlike most extensions, this ripped up the franchise tag. It's through 2028. So it wasn't an additive extension. It was instead of this year and then 3 additional years. But there's really no guarantees after this year. We have a bit more information now on the deal's exact structure. The Bengals could move on after 1 year if they really wanted. More likely 2 years. There are some guarantees for 2026. However, I do think Higgins is kind of a, core member of the Bengals. In 2024, in 12 games, he had 73 catches, 911 yards, 10 touchdowns, 109 targets, 6.1 catches, and 75.9 yards a game. Solid numbers. The touchdowns are a little bit high for him. He had 3 other seasons right around 109 targets, but never broke 7 touchdowns in any of them. Joe Burrow set a career high in passing touchdowns, passing yards, passing attempts, passing yards per game in 2024. So this is probably kind of about the ceiling for touchdown production. But it is possible Higgins leveled up in 2025 or 2024 because he was 25 years old, not old for a wide receiver, and he'd been good beforehand. Maybe he took a step forward. However, there are some other numbers that show that maybe there wasn't really much of a step forward. In 2024, Higgins had a 24.9% target share. That's 23rd among wide receivers. 24.8% target rate. That means on the plays he was there, he was targeted on 24.8% of them. 28th among wide receivers. So this is why I'm kind of conflicted, right? Higgins is a good NFL wide receiver. There's no doubting that. He's good. But he's not a great NFL wide receiver. He's not a fantasy wide receiver 1 as a talent. Fantasy wide receiver 1s do not have 24.9% target shares. They just don't. And 24.8% target rate is not good. So, not for a wide receiver 1. So the thing is, he's a good wide receiver, and Joe Burrow makes him into a fantasy wide receiver 1. Without Burrow, he's a borderline wide receiver 2. And we see that from the target share and the target rate. That's what we see. Now, he had 18.5 PPR points a game in 2024, 5th among wide receivers. That is very unlikely to be repeated with his target numbers. It's just not possible to be 23rd in target share, 28th in target rate, but wide receiver 5 in points per game. That seems very unlikely. He's 100% dependent on Joe Burrow for his production, but that situation seems pretty stable. He's only 26 years old, so he's not old. So you see kind of why there's a lot of conflict, a lot of, debate, internal debate about Higgins and his dynasty value. So that kind of lands me on he's just a hold. That's why I haven't chosen him for content. Because what am I recommending you do? I find him to be hard to sell because he's had some injuries and people are always like probably too confident they can predict future injury. He's had some injuries. He's burned people by starting games and leaving them early. So that kind of drops his market value, makes him difficult to sell. But he's not really a buy because he already has the contract extension. And I feel like the buying window was last year. Before the big year happened, he was much cheaper. Now he's kind of at his ceiling value-wise. So I don't feel like buying him is really the answer. So he's just kind of a hold. He's there. But, it's interesting to look at the target share numbers versus the fantasy numbers. Because I had to pick one as more predictive. It's the target share numbers. That's why I have him closer to wide receiver 23 than wide receiver 5 in Dynasty. He's, in the mid wide receiver 2 range in Dynasty for me. Now, the next player I want to talk about is Cam Ward. And I don't want to rehash Cam Ward's entire rookie profile. He was a good prospect. He was. A lot of people saying, the whole quarterback class was bad in 2025. It wasn't. I mean, he was good. In his final college season, he had 67.2% completion, 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 9.5 yards per attempt, and 331 passing yards a game. I mean, this is big numbers. But, it was really only the final year. Beforehand, at Washington State, he was fine. It might have been a late day 2 pick. It wasn't anything special. So it all came in the final year for, being number 1 overall draft pick, first round pick kind of talent. But I will say, everything, and I mean everything, I have heard from the Titans offseason program says that Cam Ward has come in and is exactly what we were hoping for. He dominated during the rookie minicamp, the mandatory minicamp. He continued to impress. One thing that stood out to me, and you can go, look at the Titans beat reporters yourself, go do your own research. But something that I found was it was interesting to see he was forming a connection with the other rookies. I saw Elikiah Maynor mentioned sometimes it was Xavier Restrepo, his college teammate. I even saw some mentions of Gunnar Helm. That was interesting. And Chimere Dike as well. But a lot of forming relationships with his rookie receiver teammates, which I thought was interesting. A lack of negative quotes I also thought was interesting. We didn't see, it's going to take him some time to get ready. Oh, he's not ready. I didn't hear any of that. It didn't sound like that. It sounds like he is ready. He is ready, and he's ready to be a day 1 NFL starter, which he will be. Now, the thing is, a lot of people are a little down on Ward because of the situation. It doesn't seem so good. The surrounding weapons on the Titans are not that great. And, it's important to remember that situations in the NFL can change very, very quickly. I'm not saying that Ward is going to be Jaden Daniels or be rookie year CJ Stroud. He won't be Jaden Daniels because he doesn't have the rushing upside. But the point of this is what we think of as a bad situation can either we can be wrong. Remember in 2023, everyone was like, a lot of people were saying Bryce Young is the one you want to target because he is the better situation over CJ Stroud, which sounds ludicrous in retrospect because we didn't know yet that Nico Collins was as good as he is. It's very, very difficult to predict situation. And that's why building on that point, I'm not fading Ward because on the surface, the Titans situation looks bad. Titans have like $100 million in 2026 cap space. The situation could look very different in a year's time. We don't know. And Ward was a good prospect. He looks good so far. I'm not fading a quarterback prospect I liked who went 1 overall in the NFL draft just because the situation on the surface could be better. In Superflex drafts, I've had Ward as the 102 the entire time. That has not changed. And I'm still happy to buy him at current market cost. I do think a buying window might even continue to remain open because as we get to redraft and people see that Ward is ranked at like quarterback 25 for redraft, they'll say, well, Ward's not going to help me in 2025. I don't need him if I'm a contender. And then a buying window could reopen as we get closer to the season. So I would be happy to do that. I think Ward is a franchise quarterback, and I'm very, very in on him, especially at his low market cost. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. Go to the link, patreon.com/fantasyadvice, and type in this code at checkout. You'll get 50% off your first month. You can get my rankings, access to Discord write-ups, Patreon-only videos, direct message fantasy advice, and the ability to ask in advance questions for YouTube videos, which you'll see at the end of every video, including this one. I just dropped my redraft rankings on there this week. So if you're looking for my redraft content, that will only be on the Patreon. I don't do redraft video content or Twitter redraft content at all. So I'd love to see people join if you're interested in that. In addition to, of course, more Dynasty content and direct fantasy advice for your teams, both through Discord and direct messages. Tiers begin at just $5 a month, $250 with the discount. If you want to know more about Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. They're on the homepage under Patreon promos. And again, I really appreciate everyone who signs up. It really does a lot to support the content. I'd say about 80% of the content I do is on the Patreon versus 20% is available for free. So if you're only following me on here, you're missing the lion's share of what I'm doing. So again, if you're interested in that, I would love to see you sign up. Patreon.com/fantasyadvice. Links in the top right corner. Use code TylerYT50 at checkout for 50% off. With that said, I'll get into my next topic. So my next topic is Mark Andrews, and I think he could vanish to dust by the middle of 2025. I mentioned him as a dying asset earlier in the offseason. I thought he could be released. The Ravens kept him. Did they keep him for optics more so than his actual fantasy value? I think so. And now I feel like he's fading into oblivion. So if you had to guess how many targets Mark Andrews had last year, he played all 17 games. I think most people would say, well, he probably had about 80 or 90, somewhere in the 80s would be most guesses. It was actually a lot less than that. He had 55 catches, 673 yards, 11 touchdowns on just 69 targets. That's just over 4 targets a game. 3.2 catches and 39.6 yards a game. 11 touchdowns kept him afloat. It was career high, but it was low in catches and yards and targets per game way since his 2018 rookie year. This was a big decrease. Now, it is not possible, I am sorry, for any player ever to have 11 touchdowns on 69 targets ever again. It will not happen. It's not the norm for Mark Andrews. It's not like he had this many touchdowns before. He's never had 11, and he had many seasons where he had way more than 69 targets. So this is not even the norm for him. It will not happen again. I'm just telling you. Now, why won't it happen again? There are a lot of problems with Mark Andrews. Number one, the 15.3%, I should say target share, and 23.6% target rate, 18th among tight ends. Abysmal numbers. These are not the numbers of a high-end tight end target. Even when the target share is bad, but even the target rate, there are a lot of tight ends being targeted more often than him. And he's not playing a high snap share, which is also not a plus. And then we just have to look at the Ravens coaching staff. What are they saying about these players? John Harbaugh had a delusional idea that he wants Isaiah Likely to be an all-pro. That's not going to happen. But when we talk about Andrews, when we hear them talking about Andrews, it's always like, well, we expect him to be there. Yeah, no, he's here. He's a part of the team. No excitement. Nothing exciting. It's just, well, yeah, he's going to be here. He's an important part of the team. Yeah. Okay. It's bad. It's not good. And I do think if Andrews didn't have all that dead cap in his contract from previous restructures, he would have been gone. He would have been gone. He's not worth what he's being paid or anywhere near it. And I would consider moving on from Andrews dirt cheap. Honestly, he's so low in my rankings that's why he hasn't been a sell yet, because he's so irrelevant that I barely consider him worth talking about. Now, To give you an idea of why he might be a sell, he's currently the tight end 9 in Fantasy Pros ECR PPR redraft rankings, expert consensus rank on Fantasy Pros. That is insane, but it's better than it was because I used to see him as the tight end 6 or 7. This is, in my opinion, divorced from reality. This is not reality. There's no way that someone who had 69 targets is going to be tight end 9. That's not going to happen. There are so many touchdown regression indicators for the Ravens, both for the entire offense and for the passing offense versus running. Lamar's not going to have the amount of touchdowns he had passing again. But if people see this and believe it and say Andrews is going to be usable all year, I'll tell you he's not. It gives you a selling window for Andrews. Another thing that's totally just divorced from reality is Isaiah Likely's PPR redraft ranking. Why he's tight end 22, I have no idea. This is his floor. So Fantasy Pros rankers maybe should reconsider their current course because this is ridiculous. The two players should be 3 or 4 spots apart with Andrews having a slight lead, not 13 spots apart. Because I'm telling you, Mark Andrews looked done, finished in 2024. And I don't want a year later of done and finished on the last year of his contract and potentially on the way out the door. So I'm not interested in that. Obviously, I have to pick one. I'd rather have Isaiah Likely. Maybe he'll be undervalued if people see this as we get close to the season. I don't know. But Mark Andrews is a hard sell. I have no interest in him. Now, my last player I want to talk about, Tyrone Tracy. A wide range of outcomes in 2025. So again, Tyrone Tracy was discussed a lot pre-draft because he was a really strong pre-draft sell for me. The Giants had a lot of running backs in for visits, and that was the correct take because Tracy's value dropped significantly after the Giants drafted Cam Skattebo. But Tracy was decent in 2024. Skattebo was only drafted in the 4th round. So this is a competition. It's a legit competition. Tracy, in 17 games, had 192 carries, 839 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4.4 yards carry, and 38 catches, 284 yards and a touchdown. He wasn't really used in the first 4 weeks and didn't see any work. But then after that, he became the starter and held it mostly. But there were some fumble problems. He averaged 13.8 carries and 2.6 catches over the final 13 weeks. So that's like 16.4 touches a game. For the most part, he remained the league back, except for when he visited the doghouse. And he averaged 13.2 PPR points a game over the final 13 games, 22nd among running backs. Again, he was fine, but it's nothing special fantasy-wise. So basically, it's not enough to say that he's definitely a starter over Skattebo, but it's good enough to say that he's probably not going to just disappear and let Skattebo take 80% of the work. That's also unlikely. Now, for me, I'm generally avoiding this backfield entirely. Both players are certainly not ones I want. The reason I say they have a wide range of outcomes is in order to hit that high-end range of outcomes, we have to be wrong about one of two things. One, pretty much everyone projects the Giants to be bad. They face the top strength of schedule with a bad offense. So unless that's wrong and the Giants are actually a good offense, if this is a bottom 5 offense with running backs splitting the work, neither of these guys are going to be startable. If you're a bad offense, you have to get everything to be startable. So then we could be wrong about one of them getting everything, but I don't see that as likely. Now, the bigger reason why I am not interested in these two players at all, especially Tracy, because he was drafted even less recently, is that Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are on a very, very hot seat. I think if this year is a disaster, total house cleaning is happening. And if there's a total house cleaning, new head coach, new general manager would have zero commitment to these guys. One was a 4th round pick, the other a 5th. So of all the dynasty backfields, this one is one of the highest on the list of that I'm just not interested in. I'm not interested. I don't want these players. And this could be one where someone else comes in next year and just cleans out the value of both of these guys. And that would be a disaster, which is why I'm not investing in either player right now. Got some Patreon questions, and we'll close out the show. Any recommendations on sources of data or stats to get started with our own analysis and rankings? I mean, Pro Football Reference is really good for a bunch of stats. Fantasy footballers are a good way to sort fantasy stats. their stats part of their website. But overall, I would say there's a zillion sources of data and stats. It's not hard to find data. There's a lot of it freely available on the internet. So those are some of the ones I use. Dynasty Daddy Trade Database I often cite in the content. So there are many sources of data you can use. There's no shortage of those. I would like your opinions on first, second, third, and fourth round picks in general. Do you think the community overvalues or undervalues any specific round? Yes, I do think that second and third rounders are the most undervalued. Most people value first rounders pretty highly. Oftentimes, I think you can get a discount on, the farther future firsts, not this year, because 2027 is such a beloved class already. But usually, in almost every other year, the 2 years out firsts are significantly undervalued. But not this year. This year's an exception. And then fourth rounders, I don't know. I kind of like them sometimes, but people are usually willing to give them away. So I guess they're undervalued. But yeah, I think most picks are undervalued if that's not obvious from my content. But second and third rounders are by far the most undervalued of the rounds. What's the biggest attribute or trait that separates the good dynasty owners from bad dynasty owners? Oh, well, I mean, if you become a patron, you'll become a better dynasty owner. That's really the main thing I would suggest. I did do a trading do's and don'ts video behind the Patreon paywall, which would help you with this answer, becoming better. But if you want a tip on here, don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Make trade offers. Make different trade offers to different managers. Don't just sit on your hands. If you're going to rebuild, really rebuild. If you're going to compete, work to improve your team. Don't just sit there. So, yeah, laziness is bad, and aggression and activity are good. That's the biggest. If I could only pick one trait, for sure, there's no doubt. Who are the rookies you're most excited to watch this year, and who are some rookies you're very happy to have avoided in drafts? Most excited to watch? I mean, Ashton Genty, of course. I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what happens with Travis Hunter. I think that'll be interesting for sure. Cam Ward, I do kind of have a lot of excitement for him. It's the good guys, the guys at the top that I'm excited to see. Kind of excited to see Jaden Higgins roll as well in the Houston offense. That could be interesting. Who am I happy to have avoided? Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is buried. I'm not interested in him. I told people this is fake opportunity. I'm not interested in Jaden Blue, and it looks like that is very much the case. Cam Skattebo, again, wildly overvalued. Shadur Sanders, even post-draft and Superflex drafts, I saw him go in the early second in almost every draft, or at latest the mid-second. Zero interest in him. So that's definitely one. Those are some of the ones I'm happy that I'm just not interested in at all. Okay. If you like the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing, and don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on Patreon. Dynasty and other fantasy football content year-round. 50% discount at all tiers using code TylerYT50. Click on the link in the top right corner, patreon.com/fantasy advice. You can sign up for the Patreon there. Every sign up helps support my independent content. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.